If you've spent any time in the digital asset world lately, you probably know that feeling, right? Watching a transaction fee, a gas fee, just suddenly spike.
Oh yeah, that moment where you think, is this even worth it?
Exactly. The cost to just move your own value shoots up, and suddenly it's this big financial decision. It often makes the whole blockchain space feel like it's really only for the whales, the big speculators.
That unpredictability, that cost barrier. It's probably the single biggest hurdle for mass adoption. If you have to stop and think, can I afford this transaction, or worry about losing a big chunk just in fees?
You lose the everyday user.
Right. Sure.
Instantly.
Absolutely. But today we're doing a deep dive into a network that claims it's actively fighting that whole structure. We're going to unpack the claims of the XPR network. They actually call themselves the People's Blockchain.
Oh, the People's Blockchain. That's a bold claim. It is. And our mission here is to understand the four main pillars they say make this possible. It's all apparently built on this philosophy they call the spirit of inclusion, really aiming to make digital finance accessible to everyone.
Right. And looking at the source materials we've got, they boil it down to four key things. XPR has to be fast, free, compliant, and this one's critical community-owned.
Fast, free, compliant, community-owned. Okay.
Yeah, those are the pillars. And the details behind each one, that's what supposedly delivers the accessibility.
Yeah.
We really need to dig into the mechanics,
Okay, let's start unpacking that. First pillar, open access. That seems to be all about speed and cost, because right now, the big barriers, like the source material points out, are those outrageous gas fees.
Yep.
And this feeling that you need advanced coding skills just to do anything.
Yeah.
How does XPR tackle those head on?
Well, their whole solution seems geared towards removing friction, making the tech almost invisible, really. The performance claims are pretty significant. They're talking transactions confirmed in under 3 seconds. Under 3 seconds.
Yeah, and that speed is vital, right? Because it changes the whole user experience. It's not this wait and see game anymore. It's closer to real time, like using your bank card.
Okay, that speed makes sense. But then the cost claim. They say it's virtually nothing. They even explicitly market no gas fees. Now, hang on. In crypto, free usually isn't really free. If there are genuinely zero transaction fees, what stops someone from just spamming the network? And how do the validators get paid? What's the incentive?
Okay, good questions. And that's where the architecture gets interesting. It's a major difference. Instead of that volatile auction-style gas market, the thing that causes those crazy fee spikes on Ethereum and elsewhere,
right?
XPR uses a resource staking model.
Resource staking.
Meaning to transact, users need to hold and stake a small amount at XPR, the native token. Staking that token gives you network bandwidth, CPU, and net resources specifically. So you don't pay a fee per transaction. You sort of own the right to transact up to the limit your staked amount provides. So it moves from paying each time to owning a small piece of the network's capacity.
Exactly. It gets rid of the volatile cost per action, but there's still an economic reason not to spam because you need to lock up some capital, your stake, to get that capacity. It's a shift from, let's say, a consumption model to an ownership model.
That's a really crucial distinction.
Right.
Okay, so combine that 3-second finality with effectively zero cost per transaction.
Yeah.
That completely changes the economics, especially for smaller users or microtransactions.
Totally.
And that simplicity speed plus no cost anxiety that seems to tie directly back to their spirit of inclusion idea, making blockchain feel, what do they say, natural, empowering, and human.
Precisely. When cost and speed aren't barriers anymore, the network theoretically opens up. Anyone from a first-time wallet user to a global fintech platform can jump in, send value, or even build something instantly.
But being fast and cheap isn't enough. Right. You need actual things people want to do on the network. That brings us to pillar number 2, real utility.
Yeah, a fast, cheap network with nothing on it is.
Well, it's just infrastructure. The research we looked at suggests they're focused on real use cases, not empty hype.
Which makes sense if you're aiming for the people. You need tools that solve real problems without needing a PhD in crypto.
Exactly. Simple, useful tools.
And this is where their ecosystem products come in. Let's look at the WebAuth wallet. Think about the usual crypto wallet setup, seed phrases, private keys, worrying about gas.
Yeah.
It's intimidating.
Definitely.
WebAuth seems designed to fix that. It offers Seamless login, passwordless security, but still self-custody.
So they're trying to wrap the complexity in something familiar, make it feel more like a banking app, maybe?
Right.
But crucially, without giving up that self-sovereignty that's core to crypto.
Right. And then for trading, there's Metallicus. Now, most DEXs, decentralized exchanges, they can be pretty confusing, especially for beginners.
Steep learning curve. But Metallicus claims to offer decentralized trading that's simple enough for average users, but also has institutional-grade liquidity. That sounds like a tough balance. Easy to use and powerful.
It is a tough balance. The institutional liquidity part is interesting. It suggests they're attracting larger players, which could help with pricing and making sure trades actually go through smoothly.
Okay, and then they have Blastpad. That's for launching new tokens.
Yeah, a platform for fair, transparent token launches. So an entry point for new projects and for people who want to invest in them early.
And rounding it out for the more creative side, there's soonMarket. That seems to be their bridge into NFTs, community art, collectibles, that whole space.
Right.
So looking at all these together, WebAuth, Metallicus, Blastpad, soonMarket, it does feel like a suite, doesn't it?
No.
Not just random apps. They cover identity, trading, investing, collectibles, aiming to make blockchain useful day-to-day for people and businesses.
It looks like that's the strategy. Build the fast, free foundation, then immediately stack practical tools on top, moving from just potential to actual usable stuff.
Okay, let's shift to the third pillar. And this one, arguably, is a really big differentiator right now. Compliance. The documents say XPR is taking a road less traveled, prioritizing regulatory readiness over reckless growth. That sounds careful.
It does. And this seems to be their key strategy for bridging TradFi and DeFi, the traditional finance world and the decentralized one. The parent company, Metallicus, seems to have gone deep on aligning with pretty strict U.S. compliance standards. We're talking KYC, Know Your Customer,
Okay.
AML, Anti-Money Laundering, BSA, the Bank Secrecy Act, and the one that keeps popping up everywhere now, ISO 2022.
Right. ISO 2022. You hear that acronym a lot. For someone learning about this, why is hitting that specific standard so important for bridging TradFi and DeFi? What does it actually do?
Okay, so think of ISO 2022 as like the universal language for financial messages globally. Banks, credit unions, payment systems are all moving towards the standard for sending payment information. It allows for much richer data in each message.
Oh, okay. So it's about communication.
Exactly. If you want digital assets and blockchains to plug into the existing global financial system, you have to speak that language. By aligning with ISO 2022, XPR is basically positioning itself to handle the kind of complex, data-rich transactions that banks and regulated institutions need.
That level of compliance, though, it almost sounds counterintuitive. For a lot of the pure DeFi world, the appeal is operating outside those traditional frameworks.
It can seem that way, yeah.
So how do they square that circle? How do they convince the crypto natives that this isn't like selling out? And on the flip side, how do they get conservative banks to actually build on a community-run blockchain? That seems like a tough sell, too.
Well, the strategy seems to be integration, not necessarily just disruption. Look at what Metallicus is building around XPR, things like the Metal blockchain, something called the Digital Banking Network, or TDBN, and even institution-backed stablecoins.
Ah, so they're using the core XPR tech in these more traditional, regulated contexts.
Seems like it. They're trying to prove that the tech can operate within these strict compliance zones. This focus, they argue, is what allows them to potentially power actual banks, credit unions, fintechs as they move into digital finance.
So the claim is that compliance isn't the enemy of decentralization, but the bridge. The way freedom and trust can finally coexist, as the material puts it.
That's the assertion, yeah. That security and compliance can actually enable large-scale adoption rather than stifle the core idea.
Okay, which leads perfectly to the fourth pillar, ownership. Because if you're building something that banks like, how do you genuinely stay the people's blockchain?
Right, that's the tension. And the answer, they claim, is in the governance model.
How does that work?
It's supposed to be grown and governed entirely by the community. The power isn't with a central company. It's with the developers, the creators, the token holders, basically, anyone who believes in and uses the network.
And it's active governance, like voting.
Yeah, active governance. Staking tokens gives you voting rights on the network's direction, upgrades, parameters, that sort of thing.
And the source material makes a point of contrasting this with typical VC-funded projects. It explicitly says no hidden VC agendas, no central controllers.
It's a very deliberate positioning.
That focus on pure community voting, the idea is that keeps the network aligned with its users, not just, big investors pulling strings behind the scenes.
Exactly. And you kind of see that reflected, they argue, in the variety of projects actually building on XPR right now.
What kind of variety?
Well, it's apparently a really broad spectrum. You've got serious, compliant financial infrastructure like that digital banking network, TDBN.
Yeah. Okay, the bank stuff.
Sharing the same chain with community-driven, maybe more fun projects. They mention meme projects like AI Robot Kitty.
Wait, AI Robot Kitty living alongside a digital banking network?
Apparently so. That diversity is meant to show that the governance is truly decentralized, right? It's broad enough to support both buttoned-up finance and the more experimental community-led stuff. The network isn't being forced into one specific lane by some central authority.
That's quite a mix. It suggests the ownership really is distributed if it can tolerate both ends of that spectrum.
Which loops back to their core philosophy on ownership driving success. The final thought in the material in this pillar is, because when everyone owns a piece of the network, everyone wins.
That's the ideal, isn't it? Shared ownership, even while meeting tough regulatory demands.
That's the tightrope they're walking.
Okay, this has been a really fascinating look. We've unpacked a network, trying to solve a big puzzle in crypto, how to be decentralized and compliant, open and regulated. Just to quickly recap the pillars we covered. First, open access achieved through speed and that no-gas fee staking model.
Right, the fast and free part.
Second, real utility driven by ecosystem products like WebAuth for identity, Metallicus for trading.
Making it useful day to day.
Third, regulatory compliance leaning into U.S. standards, KYC, AML, and crucially, ISO 2022.
The bridge to TradFi.
And fourth, community ownership, decentralized governance, no VCs, supporting everything from banking rails to AI robot kitties.
Yep, all guided by that spirit of inclusion.
It's a compelling picture.
What's really interesting here is that core tension they're embracing, isn't it? Strict compliance versus real decentralized ownership. They're essentially betting that the future of finance isn't one or the other, but both regulated and distributed.
Which leaves us with a big question, something for you, the listener, to think about as you process this. If networks like XPR actually pull this off, if they prove that you can have accessibility and institutional-grade compliance like ISO 2022 side by side, what happens then? If those kinds of frameworks become the standard for long-term survival and connecting with the big financial players, what does that mean for all the other truly decentralized projects out there right now, the ones operating completely outside those specific regulatory lines?
Yeah, it potentially forces a choice on the market, doesn't it? Find a way to integrate, perhaps like XPR claims to be doing, or maybe risk staying more niche, more separate from the mainstream financial flows.
It's a huge strategic question for the whole space.
It really is. The XPR Network's argument is that they've found that path integration without sacrificing the community ethos. As they put it, the future isn't centralized, it's shared.
Shared ownership, shared compliance. That specific mix is their bet on the future of accessible digital finance.
Definitely something worth keeping an eye on and mulling over as this whole digital landscape keeps shifting.